Ever think about, like, what happens when your soulmate, right, the person you're totally in love with, is actually, like, using you?
Exploiting you, profiting from.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, what if the person whispering sweet nothings is actually, a trafficker?
It's a chilling thought, and that's exactly what we're diving into today. A case where love and abuse, victim and perpetrator, it all gets,
Blurred. Tragically blurred.
exactly.
So this is People of the Philippines versus XXX.
GR number 273190.
Decided October 16th, 2024. And whoa, this one, it's got some twists and turns.
It really does. Starts with a young woman, we'll call her AAA, 14 years old, forced into prostitution.
14.
Yeah, by a woman named Margie.
So AAA's story, it starts rough.
It does, and it gets worse. She meets XXX at the port.
XXX.
Yeah.
This is our Romeo, right, in this twisted love story.
Supposedly, but under the surface, a trafficker.
Right.
He takes her to XXX, says she'll be a guest relations officer.
Guest relations officer. Sounds like legit.
Right. It's a
Exactly.
common job title. But
But not in this case.
no, it was a cover for prostitution.
So he's using this, like, normal-sounding job to lure her in.
Exactly. Preying on her vulnerability.
Disgusting how traffickers manipulate like that.
It is. And the details, they're awful. Forced to work in hotels, different hotels. Clients arranged by XX.
He's controlling everything.
Yeah. Transportation, everything. And he took most of her earnings, left her with almost nothing.
Jeez. So she's trapped
Yeah.
financially, and
Basically.
he's treating her like a thing, not a person.
Exactly, a commodity. And then, get this, in the middle of all this, XXX starts a relationship with her.
Whoa. What? So he's her trafficker and her boyfriend
Yeah, it's a twisted kind of manipulation. He makes her believe she's in love with him.
while he's exploiting her.
While he's exploiting her, the manipulation is intense.
Yeah.
He moves her to the XXX video bar.
The exploitation continues.
Oh, yeah. Still disguised as legitimate work, uses her salary for his debts, makes her prostitute herself on her days off. And he even convinces her to use drugs before intercourse.
Oh, God. This is horrific.
The abuse was relentless, physically, psychologically.
This is the nightmare.
It was AAA's reality.
It's how these guys work, right? They use love, relationships, as weapons.
They do. It's about control
Hmm.
and exploitation.
So how does this end?
A coworker, BBB, sees what's happening.
A witness?
Yeah. BBB reports XXX to the CIDG, the Criminal Investigation and Detection Group.
Thank God for people like BBB.
Brave. Incredibly brave. This leads to AAA's rescue.
So what about XXX? Does he just vanish?
Nope. He denies everything, of course. Says he didn't know about the prostitution.
Playing the innocent boyfriend.
Right. Claims he thought she was 19. Met her when he was a tricycle driver. Fell in love. The whole 9 yards.
Convenient story.
Very convenient. Claims he was shocked. Shocked, I tell you. About her age, about the exploitation.
Right.
Tries to make himself look good, Says he contacted her family, visited her at the DSWD, the Department of Social Welfare and Development.
Trying to rewrite history.
Exactly. Even says the relationship ended because he didn't want to wait for her. Got tired of waiting, he says.
So what did the lower courts think about all of this?
Trial court found him guilty of qualified trafficking in persons,
Guilty.
but they acquitted him of other charges. Child abuse, specifically. Said there wasn't enough evidence.
Wait, guilty of trafficking, but not the abuse. That's
Oh, no, it's complicated. They did deem him civilly liable for the abuse, though, so he still had to pay damages.
So guilty, but not guilty. Okay.
The Court of Appeals upheld the decision, by the way. Focused on BBB's testimony, corroborated AAA's story.
So BBB was key,
Absolutely.
but the Supreme Court, that's the final word. What did they say?
They focused on one key question. Did the prosecution prove all the elements of qualified trafficking in persons?
Under the law?
Right. Section 4A, in relation to Section 6A, of Republic Act number 9208. That's the anti-trafficking law here.
Okay, break it down for me. What are those elements?
3 main things. The act itself, the means, and the purpose. All right. The act, that could be recruitment, transportation, harboring, receiving a person for exploitation, things like that.
Yeah.
The means, force, coercion, fraud, taking advantage of someone's vulnerabilities.
Right.
And the purpose, exploitation, often prostitution or other sexual abuse.
So did they buy XXX's arguments about
Yeah.
inconsistencies in AAA's testimony, lack of proof she was a minor?
No. They'd already stipulated that she was a minor, agreed on it. And the inconsistencies. The court saw those as minor, didn't change the core facts.
Trauma does that, right? Messes with memory. But the core, the abuse, that stays.
Exactly. It really does. Changes things.
So the Supreme Court, what was their verdict?
They upheld the conviction.
Wow. So they saw through his act.
They did. The evidence was pretty damning.
So walk me through it. What convinced them?
Well, AAA's testimony, for one, powerful.
And BDB backed her up.
Right. Corroboration was key. And the pattern of exploitation, it was clear. He transported her, harbored her, profited from the abuse. The whole thing was orchestrated.
All while pretending to be her boyfriend.
Exactly. The manipulation is just mind-blowing.
And she was a minor. That makes it even worse.
Absolutely. So what kind of sentence are we talking about here?
Yeah, what did he get?
Life imprisonment.
Wait.
2 million peso fine. PHP 2,000. And he has to pay damages to AAA. Moral and exemplary.
That's a lot.
It is.
Right.
But justified, considering everything.
So, big picture, what are the takeaways from this case, legally speaking?
Well, it really reinforces the importance of victim testimony, even with inconsistencies.
Which makes sense, given the trauma.
Exactly. And it highlights the significance of the qualified trafficking charge, because AAA was a minor.
What if he really thought she was older, though? Like, does that matter?
That's a good question. And the court addressed it. They emphasized the vulnerability of minors, how their consent isn't really consent, not in these situations.
Especially with the power imbalance.
Right. A 15-year-old girl forced into prostitution. She's not exactly in a position to freely consent to a relationship with her trafficker.
It's like she's a hostage.
Kind of, yeah. The court's not saying every relationship with an age gap is exploitation, of course. But in this context, with the trafficking, the manipulation, the control, her consent isn't real.
So even if he believed she was older, it doesn't matter. He was still exploiting her.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a powerful precedent. Changes how we think about consent, especially with minors.
So the law is evolving, catching up with the complexities of these situations.
It is. It's not just about legal definitions either. It's about recognizing power imbalances and how they can be exploited.
By predators, like
Yeah.
XXX.
Exactly.
So what can we do to protect people, especially kids, from falling into these traps?
That's the big question. It's complicated. But awareness is key. Educating young people about healthy relationships, the dangers of exploitation, support for victims.
We need to talk about these things, even if it's uncomfortable.
We do. Shine a light on these dark corners. Be vigilant,
Right.
proactive.
Be an active bystander. Don't look away. It's easy to get lost in the legal stuff, the details. But this is a real person, AAA. Her life.
Changed forever.
Yeah. And it's the betrayal, right? The fake love.
Yeah.
Well, he's exploiting her. That's what makes this so...
brutal. It really is. It makes you question everything.
It does. So what can we do? I mean, how do we stop this? Protect people.
It's not easy. But awareness, right? That's the first thing. Educate yourself. The signs of trafficking. It's
Not always obvious.
no. It can be hidden, subtle.
Even in relationships, you think you know.
Exactly. Pay attention to the dynamics in your own relationships, your friends' relationships, and don't be afraid to say something if something feels wrong.
Even if you're not sure.
Even if you're not sure, better safe than sorry.
It's like being an active bystander, not just
Right.
looking away.
Right. And support organizations fighting trafficking, advocate for stronger laws. Even small things help.
This whole case has been a lot. A real eye-opener. Makes you think.
It does. About love, trust, exploitation, all of it.
Yeah. Big stuff. So if there's one thing I hope people take from this, it's just your gut. If something feels off, it probably is.
There's help out there. For victims, you're not alone. Reach out. There are people who care. There is hope.
If you think someone's being trafficked, call the authorities. Or an anti-trafficking organization. Seriously, it could save someone's life.
This has been heavy. Important, though. We talked about trafficking. Inside a relationship, consent, exploitation, the legal precedents.
Key doctrines, victim testimony reliability, qualified trafficking of minors, consent under duress. Big stuff.
We looked at how courts weigh victim testimony, how a victim's age matters, and how consent works when there's a power imbalance, like in this case.
Well, so yeah, it's a lot to take in. But knowledge is power, right?
It is. Hopefully this deep dive helps people recognize trafficking and stop it.
So what do you think? Anything surprised you about this case? What questions do you still have? Let us know in the comments. And if you found this insightful, like, subscribe, share.
Stay curious, stay informed. We'll see you next time.